Hi everyone, Claudia here from Lighting Clarity. For today, we're going to ask Archangel Michael, King Solomon, and Master Merlin what it is that you need to admit to yourself. So please decide who has this message for you about what it is that perhaps you need to admit to yourself. Archangel Michael, Master Merlin, or King Solomon. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Archangel Michael in for those of you who picked Michael. Thank you. So Michael says those of you who have picked him, some of you are in this category where you tend to hide away. There's a part of yourself, or there are parts of yourself that you hide away from being seen, from being shown, from being out on stage, if you like. And some of you are trying to create from a point of view of not having enough faith or self-belief really in yourselves, and that is also why you tend to hide parts of yourselves away. It is a part of yourself you sort of put over your heart or over yourself, and you kind of just go like this. He shows me to hide away a little bit what is you do not want others to see, and this is to do with your own version of self-belief, where it is you are not supporting yourself, where it is you can support yourself better, where it is you can support yourself more, he says. So Michael says there's been something in your lives, something particular that came in at a different point for each of you, where it made you question your own value, even made you question, and forgive me, this is what he's saying, your faith in life. Whether this life is worth it, which way am I headed, why has this occurred? It's been something that's kind of took the wind out of your sails. He says it is from that you learnt or are learning, he says, to back yourself. He says it does not matter what the outside world says or how you come across to someone else where you say, but that's not true, and they say it is, and you say that's not who I am. He says, please do not continue to defend yourself. He says it is enough where you stand strong and tall in who you are. What I want you to admit to yourself, he says, is your own self-worth, is your own self-belief. That you start talking to yourself and supporting yourself in that way. Some of you have been hurt by certain situations in life that have occurred at certain points. He acknowledges that. He says some of you are still actually, believe it or not, healing from that, even though it was years ago. It left its mark, he says. And as a result, you've kind of hide parts of yourself away from the world, and it has affected your self-belief. So he says, start believing in you. Start pulling into you. Start being strong in you. Do not try to convince others of your worth, of what it is that you believe, of whatever it is that they believe. Let them believe what they do. He says it is important that you believe in you and that you know what your truth is regarding you. It is the person looking back at you in the mirror, not all those other people. And this is one of the life lessons you have as well, he says. All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next group. So we have those of you who chose Master Merlin. So I'm going to thank Michael for coming in because I forgot to do that. All right, as we move on to Merlin now. Merlin says, what you are not admitting to yourselves is that you can do far more than you are allowing yourselves to do. Some of you are almost afraid, he says, of your own talents, your own abilities, that you can actually stretch further. You're also afraid that if you do stretch further, you're afraid of, what if I fail? What if I can't do it? What if I can't push this through? What if this doesn't work? You're almost afraid of your own failing. You're afraid to fail. And there's that part of you that, and he says that some of you are very accomplished already, and you've proven to yourself time and time again that you are capable, time and time again that you can do this, whatever it is that you put your mind to. He says it is about you reaching for more. There is far more that you can be doing. He says you have more talents than you are aware of. And there's also something to do with a life goal you want. He says you can do this. Reach for what it is that you want. So some of you have an issue with failure, worried about how it would be failing yourselves. He says that's more what it is about. He says being on earth is a trial and error where you succeed sometimes and fail another. He says nobody hits the mark on your earth all the time. You wouldn't do that because you have life lessons to learn. But he says do not allow this to stop you when it comes to the bigger picture, when it comes to the bigger things that you want. He says please do not allow fear of failure to stop you. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and move forward anyway. He says some of you are not fulfilling exactly what you came here to fulfill at the moment. Some of you are not stepping up to the plate. You're about that much off. Where are my hands? That much off stepping up to the plate. He says, we want you to step further. You can do this, he says. He says, none of you will be left behind. You will be pushed forward and made to step up to what it is you came here to do. Nobody will be held back or left behind. He says at the moment, each of your holy teams are talking to you and they are coaching you forwards. I'm going to thank Merlin for coming in. As we move on to the King Solomon group. All right, bear with me. Thank you, everyone. So Solomon says, for some of you, there is this new beginning. And he also takes me to the bottom of the heart centers. And he shows me the heart centers starting to open up. He says there's been a life lesson that has been learnt. There's been well and truly a life lesson that has been learnt. There's been well and truly a aha moment. And for those of you who say, I can't pinpoint what that is, it can be something small or something large. But he's making me feel, for some of you, something that is still coming in, if it hasn't already. So Solomon says some of you have your heads down, you feel a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit sad. There's something that feels a little overwhelming, something that feels a little bit sad. So this is to do with a goal that absolutely didn't work out for some of you. And it's kind of floating in the water. He says, please do not, some of you dwell too long, he says, on one particular thing when something hasn't worked out. He says, you dwell too long on it. He says, it hasn't worked out. Move forward, move on. He says, there is something more that wants to come in for you. There is something better that awaits each of you. He says, it's a matter of stepping in that boat and pushing away from the shore and having that faith. He says you have quite a strong intuition. Start feeling where it is you need to be next. Start feeling what next wants to come in. Start feeling where it is your interests are, where your passion is, where you're feeling to go. Sometimes you hold back, you overthink things, you over procrastinate. He says, start making some definite decisions. There is a need to ground, he says, at the moment, when it comes to making the decisions you need to make. So Solomon says you're all beginning to also build your structures. They're very, very low at the moment, but you're building some strong structures. He says you're starting also to believe more and more in your ability to build what is that you want, even though things have disappointed you. He says, I want you to keep standing in yourself tall and strong. Keep building those structures, even if they take a while. He says, I ask you to not give up. You've all got such a very gentle energy about you. He's making me feel. He says, keep persevering. Keep persevering. You have this, you've got this, and you will arrive at the destination you are each meant to be at. Trust in the divine timing. In fact, he says, divine timing is starting to speed up upon the earth. He says, I want you to trust as this comes in, because you will be asked very quickly to turn around, very quickly to make a decision, very quickly to make movement forward. And he says, that's where you turn, that's when you stand strong in yourself. That's when that self-belief comes in. And he shows me that just coming in, you going, yep, I'm going to do it. I'm going, and that's it. And he just shows me that. So that's good to see. I'm going to thank Solomon for coming in. And thank you to Merlin, and thank you to Michael as well. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, many, many happy blessings. I'll see you all again soon. Happy weekend. Thanks, everyone.